Craig, here we are, the end of the season. When you look back on it and reflect on it, how do you kind of sum it up in general?
Probably split it into two parts, I would have thought. Pre-Christmas, post-Christmas. I think pre-Christmas, from a personal point of view, struggled. I snapped my Achilles at the end of last year and had a few complications, so physically it was a struggle. And we struggled, I think, to start with on the pitch as well. Post-Christmas, massive improvement. I think individually the players improved, tremendously, and as a group, I think we improved as well.
Yeah, certainly towards the end of the season and going into the playoffs, seem to see a real noticeable improvement from them in terms of performances.
Yeah, we have a style of play at the football club. We like to play out from the back, ideally through the thirds, which comes with risk. Obviously when the lads are so young and learning the game, it can be a risky way to play, but ultimately it's the right way. Pre-Christmas, I think we got caught out with that. I think we made a lot of mistakes, trying to play out the right way. Post-Christmas, we refined that, and the lads got used to it, and the performances followed.
I think you mentioned it quite a few times during the season, that on the ball, an incredibly talented group of players there.
Yeah, and I think that's a running theme from what I've seen throughout academy football. I think on the ball, in possession, technically, players are very, very good. I think the art of defending, being hard to beat, is not a dying art, but it's one that certainly we've worked on very hard the second half of the season, which has brought, it's bear fruit when you see the players that have come through, Ollie Cook and Alfie Jones, and as a team we've been much harder to break down.
I mean, in terms of that progression, you mentioned Alfie and Ollie there. You've seen quite a few of the guys who were with you at the start of the season really progress and establish themselves in the under-21s. That must be so pleasing to have seen.
Yeah, I mean, that, again, I spoke about the way the club like to play, and the club have a philosophy as well, where we try and get the pathway open and get them up and through as quick as possible. A lot of the more experienced under-21s saw themselves going out on loan, or been in and around the first team, which means there's a bump up effect. Our boys moved up to the 21s and blossomed. People like you look at Alfie, what he did there, Fella, Cook, he played a lot of games, and then we took a lot of the first years and under-16s through with us. So that was very pleasing this season.
Is that the most satisfying thing? Results and everything are one thing, but is that the most satisfying in a position like yours, to see guys come through, progress on to the next level, and also those younger ones come through?
Ultimately that's the job. Everybody wants to win, and obviously it's football. We're all competitive people and we want to win, but ultimately the job is about getting players through. From me getting them ready for Martin squad in the under-21s, and Martin then getting them ready for hopefully first team football here, if not somewhere else. And that has been very pleasing this season. I think we've got Olafella, who made the bench for the first team as a scholar, which I think is a tremendous achievement. And again shows the pathway that the club have. Alfie, who's been outstanding for the under-21s and has been in and around the first team training quite regularly with those guys now. So yeah, ultimately that's the most pleasing part of the season.
And how impressed are you with some of the younger ones that have kind of emerged for you later in the season? I guess you think of the likes particularly of Jake Vokins, who's been a big kind of star emergence this season.
There's been a few. There's been a real few. Jake obviously got his chance in the Youth Cup through injury. Played left back, which he'd never played before, or very rarely. And then within 3 or 4 games, he's a regular for the under-21s at 15. So that was fantastic for Jake and the club. But there's been others as well. I'm not going to name names. I think it's unfair to single out individuals lower down. But there's been players that have really blossomed, especially in the first year group. That blossomed and now mainstays of the under-18s team, looking to kick into the under-21 side.
Yeah, does that kind of give you sort of real optimism again for next season, looking ahead to that?
I think so, and looking at what's coming in next year as well, I think we've got some very exciting prospects to come through, and it just keeps that chain going. Hopefully, they're going to push the ones that have moved on and try and overtake those guys.
And just finally as well, we've seen 4 of your guys sign their first professional contracts: Fella, Alfie, Ollie and Richard Backery. How pleasing is it to see that sort of thing happen?
Like I touched on it before, ultimately that is the job. Very pleasing. I think all 4 have been on a different journey and come through incredibly well. You know, we had Harry Lewis, the goalkeeper, who's already signed his professional contract, and Holly Willard, who will join them next year. So I think there's 6 in total. But yeah, really pleasing, to be honest with you. Like I say, you look at them individually. Olafella struggled physically at the start of the season. He worked incredibly hard with the physios and the S&C guys. You know, he was struggling with cramp and finishing games. He's just a different beast now. And I think there's a running theme with all 4 of them. The hard work they've put in has paid off through the season.
Yeah, and there's been others in the last couple of weeks and months as well, hasn't there? I think Thomas O'Connor recently and Jan Valerie, and that is a kind of real, I guess, sense of success when you see those guys kind of getting
definitely.
that big break.
Yeah, and it's really exciting times. I think there's, like I said, there's individuals in and around the 18s and 21s, and some of the lads coming in next year that, you know, potentially are really exciting prospects.
Just finally, if I could ask you to pick a highlight of the season, is there one that stands out for you at all?
The Arsenal game at home. I think that was as near to a complete performance as we've had. In possession, like I said, we touched on before, we've always been pretty comfortable in possession. But that day defensively, and the 2 came together, which I think we've struggled somewhat. You know, towards the end of the season, we tightened up defensively, but perhaps didn't create as many chances and wasn't as good on the ball. Early in the season, we were very good on the ball, but very open, very loose. That game, it came together, and I thought there were some, you know, fantastic performances against a very good Arsenal team.